could have been peace. You don't know.
Yeah. I also like the idea that the timeline itself, choosing the path of least resistance, it is naturally leaning towards one of the possible paths rather than all of the paths having an equal weighting of having the possibility of happening. And so ninjas, by enduring and overcoming, I'm saying that 100 times this stream, they're choosing, as Naruto would say, the more difficult path to choose the best possible future or outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than it just like hope or belief or whatever. Cause I think that is what Koji should have had based on this. Because the way it's described here, it seems, but our future isn't a straight path. It could be any of these, which means he shouldn't have just known and just left it in Naruto's hands. If anything, based on
that
this,
was
it's
before.
it's like because he's seeing Naruto might win, Naruto might lose, based on all of these possible futures.
No. He didn't have the future in Naruto's. He had the future in Naruto's hands thing before he got these visions and awakening ability.
Well, but he's talking about it now, retroactively.
Yeah, but he's saying when
Scroll
he
back
says
up.
he felt he could just leave it in Naruto's hands was before he awakened the ability. Now, granted, he
Here, I
already
got it right here.
knows all about the ability apparently. So like
I
he
got it
should
right
already
here.
know that there's multiple possible futures.
Yeah.
So I don't know why he thought that in the first place, but
Well, here, I got it
that's
right here! So his
a
power
separate
was
thing.
far beyond my imagination. It was clear, or I was sure, whatever, that as soon as I was able to pull him out of Jigen, my role will be finished. Yeah, had no fear or regrets that I can leave the rest of the Hokage. I kept being quiet, waiting for the death. So, yeah, it does seem like it is before.
What is before? It's clearly before because he literally says, and then but
It was a
since he already
sudden
knows about
incident.
it, it's kind of like he should already know there's multiple possibilities anyway.
Yeah. The scene from the future. Yeah, so where was I? Because I don't want to accidentally scroll too far down. Okay, right about here. Yeah, so but again, based on his explanation, it seems as if any of the futures can happen and he doesn't know which one is going to happen. So, regardless, it would be weird for him to be like, all right, I know the Hokage can do it here. When I think the line should have been that I had faith and hope and I put my belief in the Hokage to forge his own destiny to choose the best possible future that I see as being possible.
So again,
He'll make it
I'm
happen.
not really disagreeing, but this was before he had that vision. So
yeah,
he
but
was
that's
not
just
thinking
bad.
about seeing futures.
Yeah. Okay.
But because he knows about the ability though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Stories.
I feel like we didn't really hammer it home much because it's late, but I do want to just like say again, honestly, we're gonna have to after this chapter. I think it's solidified. Kashin Koji is the best character in True Blue Vortex. It just he is. Jura might still be in the second best. Koji is just the best character in True Blue Vortex, and crazy enough, the two best thematic chapters, chapters 4 and 13. Guess who's the center of the attention? Kashin Koji, tying together Naruto themes, what it means to be a ninja, and the Destiny one.
Yeah.
Bro is just like the saving grace. Like, if there's one character I can count on them executing well at this point, it is Kashin Koji. Yeah. The only one who hasn't failed yet.
I still feel
He's
like
only been good.
This Destiny thing. Now that this has happened, I really want just for us just to go back and react to Naruto Shippuden movie 1, just to see how it was depicted there. Because again, it was like this girl was saying not all of the possibilities of the future, but the possibility of the future. And then Naruto changed it to one of the other possibilities. Like, the future was going to be this one, rather than it could be any of these ones.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, she could just have a limited ability. Because we'll get into Momoshiki. She could have just seen one future, and that's all she knows. She doesn't know any better.
Yeah, whereas it's possible that's not how it's described, because I'm pretty sure, like, the point of her ability, like, and the reason that, like, she's important in the movie and all that is because, like, she's 100% accurate with all of her future sights. But,
Well, right. Whatever. We get it.
as it turned out, it didn't go that way. The possibility of it happening was strong. Okay, so again, yeah, it seems like Koji should be saying that was the future. And you guys, through overcoming and enduring a shinobi, you changed what was set to have been the future.
Well, I mean, the point would be the same in terms of the future not being set in stone, but then it just wouldn't make sense. I feel like this kind of makes more sense. Like, this is what's most likely, but it's not set in stone. Because to say it's set in stone and you changed it, it's kind of like, well, then it's not set in stone.
Well, it's to say it would have happened if you guys didn't do something to change it.
Yeah, so it was the most likely outcome.
Yeah. Again, like, this would make a lot more sense if you've seen Dragon Ball. Well, because I was going to say the Trunks future. But even the Terminator movie. The Terminators took over in the original timeline. John Reese comes back to change the future. It's not that the future is set in stone or not set in stone. It's that that future's gonna happen unless you change it. It's not that it's most likely to happen of all
time
possibilities.
travel versus just a normal time movement, and you just fight for a better future. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it's the same thing. It's a slight nuanced wording. One makes it sound more impactful. The other makes it sound more realistic.
but
He's
regardless
picking and choosing.
of time travel,
I'm fine with either.
Yeah, regardless of time travel, because you don't have the knowledge of the future, but you have the decision to make your own choices, which can impact the future.
Yeah, but that's why there's multiple future possibilities, and there isn't a set in stone future.
Exactly.
This is the future if you do blank, and this is the other future if you do second blank, but that means there's two possibilities, which is what he's saying.
But that's why enduring and overcoming is such an incredible thing for the shinobi to do, because they're making the hard choice.
Yeah.
Which isn't expected.
But, like, again, this is just semantics pedanticness, because in this case, you're overcoming the most likely future for a much less likely, harder future. To me, that's really is the same. One just sounds more spectacular because it was the only future and you somehow changed it, which is kind of just a contradiction. So the other one's just being realistic. And to me, it's really the same. So I don't have a problem with either one.
I agree it is pedantic, but I don't like your wording to say it's the most likely, because that implies that there's other possibilities regardless of what you do.
That's how it should be, because Code's actions should influence the future just as much as Boruto's actions.
Yeah, it shouldn't. Code can be able to
Boruto
influence
needs
Code's
to do
future.
better actions that outweigh Code's.
It's not about the future, it's about
otherwise
one's
it makes it seem
future.
like Code is a puppet with no mind of his own, and he can't influence the future.
No, Code can influence Code's future, not the future.
But that doesn't make sense.
Why?
Because influencing Code's future by necessity will influence other people's futures. Even if it's something as simple as in one future, Code would be dead, so his best friend Bug doesn't get to hang out with Code for the next 20 years. Code influences his future so he lives. Bug's future has changed. Now he's hanging out drinking whiskey with Code for the next 20 years. It's just a necessity. He will change other people's futures by changing his own.
No, because that's not a decision the others make.
What if it's, it could be, because let's just say the decision is Code to kill himself or not kill himself. That will then change things.
But no, what I mean, if Code's dead, then Bug doesn't have the choice to hang out or to not hang out with Code.
Exactly. He changed Bug's future. Bug can't hang out with Code. But if Code's alive because of Code's choices, now Bug might hang out with Code. That would change future. Maybe he won't hang out with Code because Code's enemy, different future. Maybe it ends up being mostly the same. But the point is the possibility is there. He is influencing Bug's future. Because you know what? Even if it's as simple as now Bug has to make a choice to hang out with Code or not. That is a different thing Bug wouldn't have had to do.
But exactly, you're not looking at it the right way. Because if there's only one choice...
No, I'm looking at it the only way.
That's ignorant. Because if there's only one choice, then there isn't a choice to have been made. So there's only one possibility.
They're not in the series. What I'm saying is that... I'm saying that Code's future, it influences other people's futures. That's just true. Not everyone. Like, I forget the people in Antarctica probably... Well, actually, yeah, if Code's future is to freaking devour the whole planet, even the Antarctica people, the penguins' futures have been changed because of Code's future changing.
Okay, but my point is, regardless of what Code does or doesn't do, the Antarctica people don't choose to be or not to be eaten by Code. It's about their choice, not about what happens to them. It's how they react, their decisions, based on what is possible for them.
So again, though, but your decisions impact your future, but it will indirectly affect other people's futures too. So everyone's decisions matter, not just one person's.
No. You're looking at actions in general, plot that happens. I'm looking at decision-making abilities.
Looking at both, Oodie. Everyone's decisions matters, not just the ninjas. Everyone's matters.
I don't know why you say that as if I disagree.
You disagreed from the beginning because you were saying
then
how
you
about
fundamentally misunderstand what I've been saying. Like I said, I was an interview because you're looking the only way, apparently.
No, because you disagree with me about the fact that, like, I forgot the specific example, but, like, Boruto and Code's futures being intertwined because of either one's decision, like, it affects both of them.
It
was the point. So
it affects
both
what
their
can
decisions
happen
matter.
to them. It doesn't affect what they will choose to do.
Well, it might affect what they choose to do, because if Code isn't attacking Boruto, Boruto's not going to choose to fight back against Code. But if Code is attacking Boruto, he will choose to fight back against Code.
But then it's not a choice.
It is a choice. Boruto could just lay down and die.
No,
or he could run away.
I'm talking about in the hypothetical where Code doesn't attack. There's only one set outcome there. There's no decision to be made. No, he could just
attack Code.
No, in the other... If Code is
unlikely.
Dead...
Yeah, it's unlikely, but he could do it.
You're not listening. Oh my god. Talk about in the other case.
Is likeliness. It's possible.
I'm talking about in the other case.
But all the cases, there's a possibility. He could choose to do whatever he wants.
No. If Code is dead, Boruto can't choose to or not to hang out with Code. There's only one possibility of a decision he can make.
Okay. But Code's decision still affected Boruto's future.
It affected his outcome,
That's all I'm
not
saying.
his decision making.
Well, it could affect his decision making.
No, my point
in
is
other senses, because if Code's not there to do things that will cause Boruto to make certain decisions as they pertain to Code, Boruto is going to make less decisions or different decisions.
But exactly, my point is that Boruto is the one making them in either case.
He's making what does that matter to what I initially said?
Because it's about his future, not the future. He's the one making his decisions, regardless of what's forced upon him, based on circumstance or destiny or whatever. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what Code does. Boruto's still free to choose what he wants to do based on his circumstances. He's still free to forge
his own future.
His circumstances can change, giving him different options entirely that he's limited to choose from, but he can still choose to do those options that he has. If he only has one option, then it's not a choice.
I never said he couldn't. But he chooses from the options he has. Forge his own future. I don't know what you want to say.
It sounds like you agree.
I don't know what you disagreed with me to begin with.
Yeah, I think that you just need to go back and listen to this afterwards.
Because I said from the beginning that you make your own decisions that forges your own future, but it does indirectly affect you. You said something, and I was just saying, well, it does affect the future because your future influences other people's futures too. That's why it's the future in this case.
Well,
not
I made
just
the Terminator
your future,
analogy.
it will affect everyone.
And you said my problem with what you were saying is you were saying the most likely future to happen, or that it's contradicted if it's the future and then you change it.
No, because you said if it's the only possible future and you change it, it's not the only possible future, because what you did was possible. You did it.
It's not about possibility, it's the future. You can change it, but it's not like it's up to random chance of what the future is gonna be. If you don't change it, it is going to be this future. If Kyle Reese and Terminator just didn't
that's
go
fine
back
if they want to frame it that way, but I don't see a problem with the way they're framing it. Because the way they're framing it, to me, is just every decision you make, every step you take, has an impact on your future. And by extension, other people's futures, because everyone's also doing it too. So there's multiple possibilities based on those everyday decisions you make. I don't see a problem with that.
No.
I don't think it's worse than saying it's just the future and you gotta change it.
In Terminator, if Kyle Reese never goes back, there's no possibility of some other future where the Terminators don't take over. It's not the most likely possibility. It's the future. I don't see the
problem with the way Boruto is doing it here.
I'm making the analogy. It's not the most likely future. It is the future, and it can be changed.
That's fine if the other series does it that way. But I'm saying I don't have a problem with how Boruto's doing it here.
But I'm saying, I'm making the analogy because I'm directly comparing the two. I'm saying how one does it is how the other does it.
I know, but you're saying that you think the other way is better, essentially. And
how you're saying you know, and then
worse.
Explain that you don't know. I'm saying the way Terminator's doing it is the exact way Boruto is doing it.
No, it's not.
How?
Finish reading the page, bro. He's going on more random possible things that could have happened.
Gladly.
There wasn't
Let's see another example.
The future. He's gonna go list stuff like 5 of them.
That day over the years is our future. We are continuing to walk a dangerous tightrope. Do I need to keep reading before we argue more?
Well, no. I just wanted to see the translations. So in another, oh, this one's killed too. I thought there was one that says you'll be beat by Kawaki.
I was figuring that would be the case, yeah.
There was one I saw at some point. I don't know where it is, but there was a translation that said you'll be beat by Kawaki.
I don't think
But
it should say beat, though. I think it should say
anyway,
killed, and it just should be a contradiction. Because it would just be weird if he was just beat. Like, that's just it. Like, well, that's the future.
yeah, like what was Kawaki doing?
Kawaki just stopped.
Anyway,
he was already
but
beat by Kawaki.
there are other there's other future scenarios Koji has seen as well, but he doesn't explain them. The point, but he explains two for us. That already shows us there isn't just the future. He's going through more than one possible future. There just are more than one possible futures in Boruto. There isn't the future.
But he says
there's a worst possible future. The worst of the millions that he saw.
Yeah. So here's where I'm going to explain it. So he says, but it seems obvious. But it might seem obvious, but our future isn't a straight path. Stories branch out intricately at the crossroads where selections happen. In other words, battle royale between fate. These are at the decision-making things, and it's limited to that.
So for example, Jiraiya's decision to stay in the Pain arc, or the Jiraiya versus Pain arc, his selection, the critical selection moment, that's one of them, where Jiraiya makes his decision, and that it impacts the future. So there's certain moments or pivotal moments of decision makings that affects the future. There isn't the future because there's just, frankly, more and more possible futures branching out based off the decisions that were made.
Yeah. So,
obviously, once the decision's made, the old ones get cast aside, and then there's a new set to look at.
Okay. So what I'm saying is there isn't a future where a purple elephant falls out of the sky and just crushes and kills Ishiki. Like, that's external from Naruto.
But we don't know that. There might be.
Decision. No, it doesn't happen in any future because it's not a determining factor of a decision-making ability.
Well, no, there could be an outside thing we don't know about. Like, if Shibai just was a purple elephant and he was going to descend upon the heavens in the future regardless, that could still happen.
I'm talking about in this Ishiki fight.
I mean, for all we know, this is ridiculous and unlikely, but for all we know, during the Ishiki fight, if Naruto, let's just say, didn't use Baryon mode, Shibai was going to get fed up, turn into a purple elephant, and stomp on Naruto and Ishiki. But because he saw Baryon mode, he was so intrigued, he was like, oh, let me grab my popcorn and watch. Sounds ridiculous, but it's a possibility that could have happened.
Well, my point is that these are connecting to the decisions that happen at each point in time. And I don't think at any point... Okay, in this case, no. I'm saying no. Shibai isn't an elephant in this. It just is an external third-party elephant disconnected from a character. You can't just make a hypothetical to where it is Shibai.
Hey, does the purple elephant have free will?
My point is that the future's limited. Not literally anything can happen at any time.
Okay, that's fine. Because that's unrealistic. Like, it's based off of possible, like, reasonable things that can happen.
Yeah. So you have different timelines. Timeline A, Timeline B. Yes, it's possible for Naruto to make different decisions. He either could or couldn't go into Baryon mode. We're watching Timeline A to where he did go into Baryon mode. If you time travel into the past from the future, if Boruto 2 Blue Vortex teleports back to this moment, it's still the same timeline. It's not like it's a different universe, a different reality where Naruto is going to make a different decision, or could. He would make the same decision. That's the decision Naruto makes.
It's possible that they wouldn't. We don't know how that works in that sense, but it is theoretically possible.
Right. It would have to be a different universe.
He would just make a different decision.
It would literally just have to be a different dimension. A different Naruto. Because everything that led up to this led up to Naruto making this decision at this moment in time. He could have made a different decision. It was possible, but he didn't. Therefore, he never would. All things stay the same.
I would like to think so, but
because timeline B can be
it's
different from
still possible
timeline
that they would
A.
just write something weird.
Yeah, like timeline B can be different from timeline A, but without change, timeline A won't change. It doesn't matter if you rewind timeline A and replay it. It's going to play out the same way. There's no sense of RNG.
I think there probably is some times where that could maybe happen, but regardless of that, we'll just ignore it.
Well, like hypothetically, if Boruto.
If what you're trying to say is, let's just say it, yeah. But if you're looking at it from a travel back in time aspect, then yeah, it already happened. It's just gonna happen again. So they're gonna change the past so that the future changes and blah blah blah. That's all fine and dandy, but that's different from what Koji's talking about.
Koji's talking about all of the possible futures, which is limited.
Yeah, he's talking about it from the present, looking forward. These are the possible futures, each one different depending on the different decisions that they make. Now, one decision will end up being made per character. And if you want to go back in time to change that, that's fine and dandy, like your Terminator thing. But that isn't what Koji's talking about. So that's the thing I'm just saying.
Okay, but...
So I'm looking at it from his perspective of the way he's talking about it.
But wait. Because once you teleport back in time, the past is no longer the past. That becomes the present, and in that past-present moment, the future...
This is why I hate time travel.
Now everything after that present moment, which is now in the past.
Yeah, that's why I don't want them to use time travel in Boruto. Right there.
Okay, well... My point with this Baryon mode example is that hypothetically, 2 Blue Vortex Boruto goes back and just kills Naruto Next Generation's Boruto. I don't care why, I don't care how. He just does it. He uses a substitution jutsu to look exactly like young Boruto, and he acts in the exact same way as young Boruto. He makes all of the same decisions as young Boruto. So Boruto isn't changing the timeline at all. The timeline isn't changed. No other character changes a timeline in any kind of way, because they would just act the same kind of way. They would all do the same thing and make the same decisions.
Yeah.
I'll take that as an okay.
I'm ready to just blitz through the chapter.
Okay. You're clogging never soft. After that,
already up an hour later than I want to be. I just want to get through this.
I mean, for the most part, I'm hoping that we can, like, this, okay, off the top of my head, there's definitely one thing, probably two things, there's a couple of things, maybe.
Okay.
Hopefully we can get through this pretty quickly.
Tough to prove what I saw. Okay. As for the timelines that didn't come true, what I wanted you to get over the years is our future. We are continuing to walk a dangerous tightrope. It's a far-fetched...
Weird translation, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a far-fetched story, but I can't overlook the way you grasp what omnipotence is. That is unnatural. So, one more thing I'll say on this, and really quick. With the tightrope analogy, let's just say the tightrope is the timeline or the future or whatever. If Boruto is walking a tightrope, and in the middle of that tightrope, there just is a flamethrower just constantly aimed at where Boruto's walking. No matter what Boruto does, if he just doesn't change his trajectory and just keeps walking on the tightrope, he's going to get burned by the flamethrower. No matter, it's just all possible futures would be that in this case. Or like the future. Not all, but like the future would be he gets burned if he just keeps walking into the constantly going flamethrower. If Boruto does something to disable the flamethrower, then he could get through. But he would have to do that. If he doesn't do that, no matter what, he can change the future. But if he doesn't, that future will be the future. There's no future where he walks through the...
In this case, I think all he's going at is basically the worst possible future is in like pretty much all of the possibilities. It's almost like the Avengers Endgame thing where there's 360 whatever possibilities and only one where we win. It's basically like that is what he's doing here.
I don't like that. What I like, yeah, the Naruto thing, the freaking Dragon Ball thing. If the worst possible future right now is going to happen, and they need to stop it before it happens, or stop it from happening.
That's like what they tried to do in the prologue, but now they're like just having to beat it.
Because that's the thing, is that changing the future, that's overcoming something that's gonna happen. That means your decision actually makes a difference in this case, and now it matters. Now you know it does because you know what the future would have been if you didn't do it. So you know the importance and gravity of that decision. Otherwise, again, it is just like RNG. You might not like what's the point of Boruto even bothering to do anything in this case? Whether he does something or not, the worst possible future might not happen anyways. Even if he tries to change it still might happen.
Like, it's gonna happen unless he does whatever the mystery things are.
And that's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, you stopped and said, "Am I the only one who blah blah blah?" And then I saw it.
But in the end of the day, it just means things will turn out the way they're meant to be, right? So you've seen some different future scenarios, how that's helping. This is what I'm saying. Unless something happens, things are going to turn out the way they're meant to be, aka the same way. Doesn't mean you can't change it, you can, but if you don't, it will be the same outcome.
Well, it's not that it'll be, I mean, the problem is their decisions aren't like predestined. It's just like, well, you could do any of these things. And so if you have 10 decisions to make, there's 10 possible futures depending on which decision you make. So it's not a matter of the future's just going to be whatever if you don't make the decision. No, it's the future is going to be one of the 10 depending on one of the 10 decisions you make.
Yes, but
that's the difference.
In a timeline, whereas they can make any decision, they can only make one decision. And so, for example, in Naruto's timeline, we know the decisions Naruto does make. That is Naruto's timeline. Regardless if there's other ones, this one is Naruto's. This is how it plays out.
But it's not that it was meant to be that way. It just was that way.
Exactly. And we can look at it from a third-person perspective to jump around at any point in the timeline. But from Naruto's perspective, he can only live in his present moment. Naruto also isn't aware of how the future is going to be based on his decisions. And so Naruto's not considering that in his decision-making, meaning in Naruto's timeline, Naruto can make other decisions, but he will only make these decisions that he's made. Like, in the Naruto manga, there's only one Naruto manga. There's not a hypothetical second Naruto manga where Naruto makes other decisions. So regardless if I buy my copy or your copy, Naruto's making that same decision.
Yeah, like, Naruto will only make those decisions, but he could make those other decisions.
But again, without the knowledge of how those decisions will alter the future, or consideration towards it, because Naruto's not going to consider because he doesn't have the knowledge of it, Naruto's just going to make the decision that he's going to make. It's going to be the way Naruto's things are meant to be for the future.
Yeah, but no, this is where like it gets into like stupidness, and I'm going to make up a stupid hypothetical.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, again, this is ridiculous, but just say it goes down the rabbit hole. In the Naruto timeline one day, it's a sunny day, so Naruto goes outside, and let's just say that's the day he met Hinata and Naruto last. They went on their first day and they get married, blah blah blah. And he met her for the first time, so he wasn't going to meet her otherwise. Okay. Now, in another hypothetical, Pain just for whatever reason, decides to do a world scale Rainmaker jutsu. And so it's a rainy day for Naruto. So Naruto stays inside and he never meets Hinata. So they never get married. Absurd, but you get the point. Pain's decision could then influence Naruto's random everyday decision that changes the future in that case.
Yes, but
which
again,
is what I was getting at earlier.
I think in this case, Pain's decision wouldn't count as a decision, but rather as an action. Because if Pain is making unintended consequences that he himself isn't aware of, especially in regards to the decision.
Yeah, but that's fine. But I've been saying decisions and actions pretty much the whole time.
That's fine.
So I'm saying both matter.
Well, I think another way of looking at it is the fact that the future is undecided. It could go in many different paths, but the present and the past are already decided. The past obviously is decided. The present is where it becomes decided.
Yeah.
That's where you get into timeline shenanigans. So, like, if you, like, have 2 loose threads or even 3 loose strings or whatever, and you're, like, sewing something, everything you've sewn has already been sewn. You can't just have it be something else. It's already sewn. But, like, the threads that aren't sewn together yet, you can do whatever you want with them.
Yeah.